So with this Diddy circumstance, I feel like it's kind of a weird thing where the public opinion seems to be less about finding out how many of these crimes he actually committed versus just pegging him down to be a homosexual male, and that really has nothing to do with the large picture. Some of the things that have been committed against minors, just against other people that were violent, things like that. That's what we should really be focusing on, because what we don't want to do is combine the two, because there's already enough witch hunt in some people's minds that homosexuality is a sin and it's wrong, things like that. What we can't do is tie it into trafficking, child prostitution. It sounds like there's some murder charges that might be stemming. So that's the first thing that I just think of. Why do we really care if he was just a straight man and was doing this, it would still be just as heinous. If he's gay, if he's bisexual, I think that has far less to do with the actual things that the justice and legal system really need to get down to in getting his case kind of underway, or whatever it is, whatever charges may or may not come. But I would imagine that just being a homosexual male is not one of them. But we seem to want to demonize and pin down people for things that honestly, in the grand scheme of things, don't seem to matter, because we've seen straight people in Hollywood that were heterosexual utilize their power and privilege to, manipulate people who are up and coming through acts of, saying, give me what I want physically or sexually, and maybe you'll get a part, or you'll get this contract, or what have you. So this is not just a thing about being gay. Also, going back to his parties and things like that. Look, if those are all adults going to them, that's completely up to them. If people are accepting money for particular acts, well, then they should be found guilty as well, because they're accepting it. Sure, he's soliciting it, but that means there's a whole lot of blame to go around. But honestly, those are the lesser issues, because I'm sure we could find parties like that all over the country in a lot of different places. But it just adds to the mystery of all of this stuff that's going to unravel. But the things that we are hearing about Usher, Justin Bieber, things like that, those definitely raise question marks and things like that. So those are the things that, in my mind, we really need to go after in regards to saying, what are we going to do about somebody doing things like this? Same thing with the R. Kelly situation. Until it was underage girls, well, yeah, it's kind of, whatever when it's 18, 19-year-olds, but it's still a legal situation, regardless of how old the person is. And we see a lot of older celebrities dating young women, and we're starting to see older women dating younger men. That's a moral call. What we have to focus on is the legal part, in my estimation. Because what it does is it clouds a lot of judgment, and we get into wasting money and having arguments that you're not always going to get down to. What is the letter of the law when it comes to some of these things? And the bigger picture to all of this is, and this is not just about Diddy or R. Kelly or anything else, this is about idol worship. And this is just about putting these titles and looking at people with such reverence because they are on our TVs, because they sing particular songs, because they are athletes, they're politicians, they are people of power, wealth, and fame. Those are three dangerous sentiments to model your admiration after, simply because of what they have. We have good people around us every day. The teachers in our schools, the people in our communities, some of our co-workers. We have good people that we can say, well, maybe they are my peers, so I'm not going to model myself after them because I want more out of life, what have you. But we still have the ability to not have to just pattern our admirations after people we don't know, people who are paid to entertain us, and therefore most of the time they are playing a role. And this is why you hear this, the old saying, never meet your heroes, because when you meet them, sometimes it's a disappointment. Now, there's a lot of cool celebrities out there, things like that. I've met a few, but for the most part, you may be disappointed, and it's no fault of theirs. They're not set up to do that. What they're paid to do is play a role, be a person, whatever, and then they should be able to retire to their quiet, or maybe they're not so quiet, but their personal lives. And that's the problem. Then their personal life mixes in with what we want them to be in the public persona, and that can always be a problem. Now, that's not to say somebody, like a Keanu Reeves or somebody like that who's cool, might sign your autograph, is in the same breath as a Diddy. But they still have elements of things that we don't know about them. And I don't know what Keanu Reeves is up to. I'm just pulling a name out of a hat. But the point of it is if you don't know them personally, you can certainly say, I would aspire to do some of the things that they've done, but we have so much fandom for our athletes, for our entertainers, for our politicians. It's scary sometimes because it seems like we don't know how to move without somebody who is extremely wealthy, powerful, or famous telling us what it is that we're supposed to be doing, or we're manifesting as a society in our minds. Well, if they kind of do that, maybe I should kind of do that too. And it's not always the same. We have to be able to get back to just looking one, at building ourselves up, and then looking at the people around us. Build up in your community, build up in your small circle of the world, rather than trying to be a Kardashian, rather than trying to be a P. Diddy, or rather than trying to be, even like Mike. We've seen these campaigns where it's in our faces. I understand it. It's hard sometimes, but we have to get away from that, because 20 years ago, 30 years ago, who'd have thought that this is what P. Diddy would have come to? And think of all the money that he's garnered because of that. Now, he hid it very well, but still the point of the matter is, when we give that much power and credit to people, there's probably a lot of things that probably should have surfaced and come to the surface. And we're probably going to find out in the long run that there were a lot of things that were buried, or people kind of turned a blind eye. Why? Because of this man's power and wealth and stature in society. And that's the wrong thing to do. And what that means is there's everyday people like you and I who may have been police officers, who may have been, in medical offices, who may have been, in legal teams, things like that, who somehow give an undue and unearned respect to these people, which means we're not playing on a level playing field, which means that this is how a lot of these people get away with things. And then you see it's been years, decades of them getting away with the same things, where most of us wouldn't even have a shot at getting away with some of those things had we tried it. So there is something just to be said about equality in the judicial system. I understand it's a money game, things like that, but as far as I know, I remember the lady had blindfold on, so we shouldn't be able to allow that the rich and famous get away with a lot of the things that they do. It's not saying that I would want the poor and normal to get away with the same things. It means that everybody should be held accountable for whatever the laws are, and you shouldn't be able to buy your way out of it. But we also shouldn't be championing for some of these people as hard as we do. Yes, like the songs, be entertained, like your politician, but it should never be to the point where we're willing to turn a blind eye to some of the things that we are seeing out of these people and not question it. So what are your thoughts on this? Where did I get it wrong? Am I way off on this? And am I wrong for using some of the names that I did? What are your thoughts? What's your ace up the sleeve? Advice, comment, experience? Leave it in the comments. The subscriptions to the channel are free. I would love to hear what your guys' thoughts are on some of these things, not just Diddy. Give me another case or something else where we can look at this and say, wow, we really have to start looking at things more objectively and say, no, this person is wrong for that. That person is wrong for that. And they need to be just put through the judicial system, the same one that you and I would get, not the one for the rich and famous. As always, I hope this finds everybody in a place, pursuit, or beginnings of total health, mind, body, and soul. Peace, love, unity, solidarity.